Support for this program is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and from viewers like you.
Hello and welcome to Louisiana Public Square. I'm Beth Courtney, President of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
And I'm Robert Travis Scott, President of the Public Affairs Research Council of Louisiana. The month of May brings with it the end of the school semester and the beginning of the career search for tens of thousands of Louisiana graduates. The good news is that today's job hunters have much less need to look outside of the state for employment than their counterparts from just a decade ago.
Well, Louisiana now has more people working and at higher per capita income levels than ever before. So what are the hot careers and how well are our colleges and universities preparing graduates for them? And what tools are available for the state's job seekers? Plus the hundreds of Louisiana veterans returning to the workforce. Tonight, Louisiana Public Square looks for answers to these questions and more as it explores Job Market 2014. For Baton Rouge Community College graduate John Collada, majoring in process technology was a logical choice.
A lot of people in the oil industry that I know and cousins that have worked in the oil industry and worked with process guys, they recommended to me to look at it and to pursue it.
After 2 years of hands-on training in simulated processing units, Collada is eager to bring his troubleshooting skills to a real plant.
We got an alarm on a pH on tank 610. The whole thing about being an operator, I mean, that's what you're doing. When there's a problem with the unit, you're there to correct it and keep the plant running at full efficiency.
Collada has been job hunting online, scouring industry websites and scanning Twitter for the latest postings. One place his search won't be taking him, though, is out of state.
I've lived here all my life. I have a lot of respect for Louisiana and amount of jobs here, too. I mean, honestly, I don't think you really need to go anywhere. I think people should come, more people would be coming here.
More than 37,000 graduates in the state will be receiving 2-year, 4-year, and advanced degrees this year. They face a Louisiana job market that has been expanding for more than 3 years.
For the last consecutive 42 months, private sector employers have been adding jobs into the economy. Right now, at an unemployment rate of 4.5%, we are the lowest in the South and 10th lowest unemployment rate in the entire nation.
Brian Moore is the Director of Workforce Development for the Louisiana Workforce Commission. His agency projects Louisiana will gain 103,000 new jobs annually over the next 2 years.
Some of the fields we're finding having the most demand right now in Louisiana would include the petrochemical industry with $60 billion of announced economic expansion that's taking place. The construction field is in great demand, particularly carpenters and electricians and pipe fitters, but also the healthcare industry. You see there's a large need for registered nurses and other healthcare practitioners as well.
The shale gas industry will generate over 4,000 jobs and has attracted investment from companies like Regency Energy into Shreveport, Cool Planet into Alexandria, South Africa-based Sasol into Lake Charles, and an expansion of Sempra and Cameron LNG in Hackberry. 2,600 jobs will be created by technology players recruited to Louisiana. These include Computer Sciences Corporation in Bossier City, GE Capital Software in New Orleans, CGI IT Services in Lafayette, and IBM in Baton Rouge.
At IBM, I'm in the Oracle field, and as in being in the Oracle field, we're dealing with databases.
Southern University senior Leah Kite is interning for IBM's Software Technology Center in Baton Rouge. A computer science major, Kite feels that Southern has prepared her well for the position.
The thing about computer science in our department is our teachers, they have already had that experience in the corporate world or the research world, which makes it easy for them to teach us things that'll help us succeed.
With an abundance of new technology opportunities in the state, Kite is reconsidering her career search.
At first, I was saying that I'll probably have to move, but now with IBM moving to Louisiana, it's a 90% chance that I will still be where I grew up at.
But the demand for graduates in the science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM fields is much higher than the state's supply. Currently in Louisiana, there are nearly 3 STEM job openings for every unemployed worker.
Well, the problem we're trying to solve, of course, is that we have a lot of really good news in economic development. We have a lot of jobs coming into Louisiana. What we don't have is the trajectory to be able to fill all of those job gaps with graduates from the 2-year colleges and from the 4-year colleges.
Sandra Woodley, president of the University of Louisiana system, joined with higher education leaders this session to support the Workforce and Innovation for a Stronger Economy, or WISE Fund. House Bill 1033 addresses the shortage of STEM employees by setting aside $40 million that public colleges and universities compete for by producing graduates in high-demand fields. Schools are also rewarded for increasing research productivity. The bill is being pushed by the governor and is expected to clear the legislature.
For me to help other veterans find work is very fulfilling because I just came through that process, so I know all of the problems that they encounter.
Kenny Lynch retired from the Air Force last June after serving 25 years. He initially approached the Louisiana Workforce Commission for employment assistance and ended up being offered a job. As a counselor in the Veterans Program, he helps the hundreds of soldiers returning to the workforce conquer their biggest challenge, making employers understand their skill set.
In the military uses a lot of jargon, and in the civilian sector, it doesn't translate as well.
The unemployment rate of Louisiana veterans is 4.9%, slightly higher than the state rate of 4.5%. To overcome this, Lynch encourages his clients to make employers aware of the federal tax incentives available for hiring veterans, credits that range from $2,400 to $9,600 per hire.
And most employers, when you find out, well, I can get money back from the federal government for hiring you, they tend to kind of, okay, well, let me hear more about that.
For both current and future Louisiana job seekers, Moore encourages them to visit the Workforce Commission's website to peruse job listings, explore the high-demand fields, and learn the educational pathways to these careers.
We have more jobs than we have people who qualify for them, and so it's up to us to educate our young people to understand what they need to do today to have a better tomorrow.
Well, joining me in our studio audience tonight to explore Louisiana's job market are residents from the greater Baton Rouge area. They include recent 2- and 4-year graduates, career counselors, a veteran, plus members of the Legislative Youth Advisory Council. Well, welcome to everyone. Well, LSU's Public Policy Research Lab surveyed 100 citizens on tonight's topic. Here's a look at some of the responses. When asked if graduates of Louisiana's universities are adequately prepared for the job market, 61% of respondents said yes, 30% said no, and 9% were unsure. And when asked if Louisiana veterans are adequately prepared for the civilian job market, 41% said no, 37% said yes, and 22% were either unsure or didn't answer. When asked their opinion on current business conditions in the state compared to a year ago, 47% of those surveyed think conditions are about the same. 27% think that they are worse, and just 23% say they are better. 3% were unsure. Despite these opinions, 63% of respondents would advise recent college graduates to look for jobs in the state. 29% would recommend looking outside Louisiana for employment, and 8% were unsure. So let's launch off from that point. We've had a lot of big booming jobs, a lot of job opportunities. How about those of you who have either felt the impact of this yourself or know somebody who has felt the impact of all of these developments? Who wants to start off? How about you, Lisa? Tell us about your situation. You're a Baton Rouge Community College counselor, is that
Yes,
not right?
sir.
Yeah.
Well, in my position at Baton Rouge Community College, I get to see students entering the job market. And my experience is that those students who have work experience along with the education are finding employment. It's kind of a special mixture. The type of experience and of course the degrees. Some of our degrees that we offer are in higher demand, and the students in those almost step into a job right after graduation.
Well, that's really great. I mean, how much trouble do you have getting students to channel into the right directions?
Well, unfortunately, some of that happens before they get to us at the college, and so they're not always aware that a community college degree is a viable option, whereas in the employment world it is a very viable option. So communicating that message to the parents and to the students at a younger age is really important, because once they get to us, a lot of them are not aware that they could go into a workforce type degree.
Right. And your colleague at Baton Rouge Community College is Carrie. And Carrie, are you seeing the same type of trend there?
Absolutely. And the workforce programs that I believe Lisa's referring to are applied science programs. The students have a built-in internship component to their studies, so they are getting work alongside of their education, and that is definitely preparing them to enter full-time work in their field right after graduation.
Well, let's talk to some of these students and what they're facing. Austin, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are right now, and what your career outlook is.
Well, I'm just newly graduated high school graduate from St. Michael High School here in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
I currently work at a law firm right now, working full time. But I think for talking about students coming out of the work, or after graduating, going into the workforce, I think it depends on what type of work you're going into. We see a lot of high-tech industry coming in, but I think it all depends on what career field you're wanting to go into. I know from someone that's wanting to go into a law field with a city that has 2 law schools, it's very hard to find work here in Baton Rouge and in the wider Louisiana community. So a lot of people actually have to go out of state for law school.
So for lawyers, maybe you're saying there seem to be a lot in that field, but you've chosen it anyway.
I've chosen it anyways.
And that's where you want to go. Good luck to you on that. Ariana, how about you?
Yes, so I'm actually studying journalism and international studies, and I'm interested. I go to LSU right now, and I have definitely become more invested in the state, but I'm concerned that when I graduate, I'm interested in international journalism, and I don't know that there are jobs for that in Louisiana. That's something that, is international. So,
well, definitely a challenging industry these days. But how about you, Wallace?
Yes, I'm a senior. I'll be a senior in high school this coming up spring. And I think that there is plenty of jobs available right now in Southwest Louisiana with SASSAW. But the problem we are seeing is there's a lack of experience for those jobs. And I think they are trying harder to provide the experience, but that is what we're looking into right now.
How about that? So are your friends gearing up for all the work that's going to be taking place in the Lake Charles area, or is this a common conversation point for you folks?
Yes, sir. It has become a common conversation because our teachers, our principals, they're letting everyone know that there is a growth going on in our area. And for the longest time, I've wanted to leave the state, wanted to go further, but now I'm thinking about just staying home because of the economic situation.
Okay, you're trying to be the poster kid for what we're trying to do here. I guess we'll see if that works out. Jerry, you are a mom of a vet. Is that not right?
Yes, I am.
Tell us about that and what your son has experienced.
Well, I'm a proud mom of a vet and a new attorney in the state. And when he returned home, it was a little difficult for him making that transition, getting back.
Where did he return home from?
He did serve in Iraq. And when he came home and came out of the military, it was difficult for him to make adjustments. But through the introduction, actually, of the workforce website, he was introduced to career fields that he had not even fathomed before.
What website are you referring to?
I'm talking to the workforce.
You mean the state workforce?
The state workforce
okay,
website.
right.
And from there, we started talking about those fields and those opportunities that were available based on the industry need in the state. And he has settled on going into one of the construction management fields. And he saw that, you know, even though he might want to go on to college and get a 4-year degree, he could get right to work with the support of industry and getting a community college education that was affordable and accessible to him.
How about that? And you're also with the community college.
Yes, I am.
How about that? Well, maybe your son needs to talk to Matt. Matt, tell us about you. You just heard what she said. Okay, are you ready for a resume or?
Absolutely. A lot of our ABC member contractors.
Tell us who you are, so we know.
My name is Matt Campbell. I work with Associated Builders and Contractors, Pelican Chapter here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We also have a branch in Westlake, Louisiana, which is near the Sasol project you just heard about. A lot of our member contractors are doing a lot of work with veterans, working to hire them. We heard about tax incentives and things like that for hiring veterans, and it's a very attractive offer to the employers. But more so, there's a lot of room out there for folks with the military backgrounds. They've got the regimented training. They work as a team. They know how to get things done. And it's a very attractive thing to these employers, as you know, among the other things, that they make a perfect fit a lot of times into our industry. And so our industry is recruiting them hard, and we're very interested in getting them and get them started working.
And so the public education system is not filling the need that you think they do, and that's why the industry itself has an educational arm. Is that what we're talking about here?
I think right now with the boom we're seeing in industrial construction, all of us could train, and it still won't be enough. There's going to be enough coming in the next 10, 15 years that there's enough for everybody to reach out there and get a piece of the pie.
Now, Jeremy, I believe, you are enrolled in the school?
I'm a recent graduate.
Oh, tell me about that and what your prospects are.
This past May, I've graduated from ABC Pelican Chapter. I was enrolled into the millwright program, and I was working through an apprenticeship program with my company, Jacobs Field Services. And through that, I've had a lot of opportunities open up for me. I've went to the National Craft Olympics. I won 3rd place in the safety award and all. But with my apprenticeship program and the training, it's helped me come a long ways. It gave me a career, something that I can build upon.
And you talking to your friends about this?
Definitely.
Have you brought anybody else?
I'm recruiting them in, yes, sir. Trying to get a bunch of people in.
That's great. Very own headhunter here for your outfit. Well, let's go back to Leah. Leah, you did a fine job on the news program that as we started off over there. Tell us a little bit more about your situation and what you see ahead of you and how you're trying to match up your career with your education.
Okay. Well, right now I am interning at IBM. I've been there for the spring and the summer. Right now, and other than enhancing my technical skills, I'm learning that if you take the initiative all the time, you will succeed. And when I say that it is, when it comes down to technology, there's always something new coming. And don't always base it on curriculum where this is where you're going to learn software engineer, you're going to learn C++, but there's other things for you to learn. And by being a computer science student, I can honestly say that through dedication and always taking an initiative to learn, late at night you're studying, learning a new programming language. During the summertime, I'm not relaxing. I'm learning the cloud or big data. It's never a sitting point for
Great.
me.
Can you come talk to my teenagers at home? I would love for you to just, I'll show them this show. That's really great. Well, that's all the time we have for this portion of our show. So when we return, we'll be joined by a panel of experts to further explore Louisiana's job market. Welcome back to Louisiana Public Square. Tonight we're discussing Louisiana's job market 2014. Joining us now is our panel of experts. They include the head of the state's Workforce Commission and representatives from 3 of the state's burgeoning fields. Kurt Eisig is the executive director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. Appointed to the position by Governor Jindal in 2009, Mr. Eisig has increased workforce participation and transformed what was known as the Department of Labor into a workforce delivery system that strives to meet the needs of business and industry. Dr. Tina Holland was selected in April as the new president of Our Lady of the Lake College in Baton Rouge. The institution has recently expanded its program offerings to address the overwhelming demand for healthcare professionals. Dr. Holland comes to us from Holy Cross College in Indiana and previously served as an intelligence officer in the Marine Corps. Greg Bowser is Executive Vice President of the Louisiana Chemical Association, which represents the interests of more than 60 chemical manufacturing companies all over the state. Mr. Bowser also serves as Vice President of the Louisiana Chemical Industry Alliance, a partnership of Louisiana's chemical plants, their suppliers, contractors, and vendors. Noah Boudreau is the Chief Operating Officer of SparkHound, one of the fastest growing technology companies in the country. As COO, Mr. Boudreau oversees operation of SparkHound's offices in Baton Rouge, Houston, and Dallas, as well as national IT support for its customers. He received his degree in computer science from Southeastern Louisiana University. So before we go to our audience for questions, if each of you, I wonder, could tell us what are some of the biggest challenges that you are seeing from your particular perspectives on all this big job market and trying to get the workforce in sync with all these jobs that are coming available. We're going to go right down the line and start with you, Mr. Ising.
Thanks, Robert. I see the challenge today as being twofold. First off, it's making sure that the people in Louisiana are aware of exactly where the opportunities are and what those opportunities are, and the really the lifelong opportunities that we have in the state today that we haven't had before. And then the second part of the challenge is making sure that our education and training institutions are aligned to meet that need.
Too much of a good thing, and how could we?
I don't think we can have too much of it, but it's this, we're the dog that caught the car. You know, everybody I think in the state's been working hard to create these opportunities, and we really want to thank private industry for coming our way. But now we've got to make the most of it.
Dr. Holland, welcome to Louisiana.
Thank you.
What do you make of it so far?
Oh, I love the state, and Baton Rouge in particular. There's something to be said about Southern hospitality, that's for sure.
Great. Well, tell us about how things look from your end.
So the wonderful opportunity we have is that we directly prepare students for meeting the growing need for what are called physician extenders, those folks that serve in healthcare but are not themselves doctors, and that whole team approach that we are expecting to see as the Affordable Care Act gains its momentum. We'll see more and more of these ancillary professionals in direct health care being required on these healthcare provision teams, people in health literacy, health coaches, lots of areas that are tangential to the actual clinical professions in healthcare. So the opportunities are really quite numerous for the college, and we're keeping up with it by expanding our programs at doctoral level for DNPs, doctorates in nursing, and also one of our fastest growing areas is in physician's assistants.
So not only new jobs, new technologies, but also just a different workplace environment with the way the health teams work.
Yes.
Very interesting. Mr. Bowser, how about you?
Well, for us, Robert, we were fortunate enough to get a number of expansions, things that are going to be coming down the road to Louisiana, making sure that we have a ready workforce. One, to help build those facilities. Construction, welders, you're going to be needing pipe fitters, people to do that. But also, we are going to have people that are going to be operators. Someone has to operate those facilities. So we have to make sure that they're trained and there's a ready workforce there. And the other part that really gets overlooked is that we have a workforce in place, but there's a large majority of those people that are going to be retiring in the next 5 to 8 years. So we're going to have to be replacing them as well. So we have a three-pronged approach that we have to be ready for. It's a challenge, but we think it's one that the state and our industry can live up to.
Is the intensity this year, next year, or is it in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Probably the intensity is going to be in 2 to 3 years. You'll see it start to ramp up. I think this time next year, you'll probably see the construction end of it start to really take off. Probably shortly you're going to see the engineering part of it is really what's going on right now. but probably this time next year you'll see the construction end of it take off, and then it'll go from there.
So we have time to get ahead of it if you and Mr. Isaac do your jobs. So.
We'll work on it.
Mr.
No pressure.
Boudreau with SparkHound.
That's right.
What is What is SparkHound?
SparkHound is an IT services and consulting firm out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We have headquartered here, about 200 employees. We mostly serve businesses in order to be able to really provide consulting on how to best leverage technology within their organization, so they can be taking advantage of things that are up and coming, but also to implement those technologies and support them long term.
About that, and do you have more jobs open than you have people to fill them?
We absolutely do. A challenge for us, which may seem pretty I guess common in the technical field, is that technology changes very rapidly. So we're always trying to find people who have the skills of the latest technology. But also, being in consulting, it's difficult to find people with the soft skills as well as the technical skills.
And tell us what you mean by that.
So communications, leadership, being able to work with customers and really consult with them on the best use of the technology, and not just be able to have the skills necessary to go and implement it.
How about that? You would all agree that's an issue.
That's
for
key to every field
out there.
Well, that's why I had said that the core curriculum at any college is going to be key, regardless of what the technical preparation is for that student, so that they would remain flexible and able to function in a workplace, and particularly in a leadership position.
Right. Now, George, you had a question for the panel about vets, and I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to ask that.
Thanks. As a veteran myself, I wanted to know what provisions are being made for veterans who currently work in the workforce in Louisiana and veterans that are coming into the workforce.
I'll take a stab at that, but I think the guys that actually do most of the hiring could probably give you a great answer to this too. But I can tell you, every company we work with is interested in hiring veterans, and we have a unit dedicated just to that. We have staff stationed at Fort Polk and around the state, whose job is to make those connections for veterans, even if they're far removed from the military. They still are eligible for those services. But we do have an emphasis on recently separated veterans, analyzing what their skills are in civilian terms, and trying to connect the skills and so forth that are required in the military to civilian credentials, and to make that bridge easy, so that we have a way to explain to folks like these that here is the value in this person, in addition to all of the good things that people understand, everybody in the military gets, how to work with people, how to get the job done, overcome obstacles, and the things that we were talking about earlier. It's what are the technical skills that go along with those soft skills that folks from the military seem to have in abundance.
How about you folks?
Well, I would agree. I think one of the things that we really have to focus on are the soft skills. We have people coming out of college. When you look at the younger generation, they communicate differently. I've seen younger kids where they sit in the same room, and rather than talk to each other, they'll text each other. That's different than what we're accustomed to. And when you get someone coming out of the military, they understand that. They understand the communication and how important it is. And so they bring a lot of those soft skills already there. They understand why you have to be to work on time, why you have to be where you're supposed to be, all of that kind of stuff.
Do you have any special programs in the chemical industry?
It varies from company to company. A number of companies do. They reach out to veterans because of their specialized training, and it just depends on what the company does. They may make something that a veteran was experienced with while he was in the military. Some chemical agent, they may make a chemical that goes into something that makes a certain protective gear. And so those are the kinds of things they reach out to them for on that basis.
And as students, I always want veterans on campus. They are the best students. They understand the importance of being on time, being prepared, understand work ethic, and often after the experience that the veterans had, going to school is an absolute pleasure. And so I can say from experience that one of the greatest difficulties is the adjustment, and perhaps having the confidence that wow, I really am prepared to excel in the civilian workforce and or as a student with some of these younger people who have gone, not had a break in their education.
I think Andrea wants to quiz you on new graduates and advice that you would give to them. Andrea, what was your question?
I'm a college graduate as of 1 week ago, and so the question that...
Did you bring your resume? This is the panel for it.
But one of the questions that I find myself facing, and a lot of my friends are facing, is this question of whether we should take kind of the first opportunity that comes to us for work and get ourselves into the workforce, or if we should hold out for that kind of dream job that we think may or may not come along down the line. What do you suggest?
Mr. Boudreaux, we'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, well, I'll speak from experience. Only being there 20 years ago, but I would say don't sell yourself short. But we notice in the workplace today a lot of I guess what you call the millennial generation right now has expectations that aren't quite aligned with what the traditional employers are providing.
Do you mean money?
I do in some ways, but other things as well. I would definitely go for what you're passionate about. Go for what you enjoy doing. Find a company that you believe in, that you trust, and that you think you can make a home and be happy for a long time. Get the experience under your belt. And I think you'll be happier for it than trying to hold out for that perfect job.
Well, I tell you, I can give the rest of you a chance to answer that question, but can you beat that? I think probably not.
No,
thanks, that was good. Wendy, up here. Wendy, you have a question about sort of non-traditional
Yes, I'm back in
people
college
in the
as a non-traditional student pursuing a second degree.
And what do you mean by a non-traditional student?
Someone who's not traditionally college age.
Okay, all right.
I'm a few years older than most of my fellow students, and I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to maximize my ability to get out into the workforce again.
Okay, so non-traditional students. Kurt, what you deal a lot, not just with graduates, you deal with people who are just out there and an older age, trying to retrain and enhance their careers. How
most of the people we deal with are not fresh graduates from anything. They've either been unemployed for a while, but it was surprising to me how many people we work with who are already working but looking for a better job. So the advice we give them, there's a lot of things that we do with those folks, but I would say the first thing is connect with somebody who understands the field you want to get into. Understand whatever your passion is, and I hope that's what you're training for, but understand what those companies are looking for and connect with those companies and get some sort of internship program or something that gets you in there while you're still in school. And that's going to do a couple of things. First thing is going to make sure you're going to know for sure if that's really what you want to do. You don't want to be one of those people, get a 4-year degree, maybe in 6 years, and you got all these loans and so forth, and you do this job for a while and you say, man, I made a bad decision. You don't want to be that person. So connect with employers in that field, and in my experience, employers are very happy to help out people who are interested in their company. It's becoming much more of a job seekers market, particularly with the number of jobs you have coming to Louisiana. And they're going to be competing more so for your skills than they've had to in the past. So they're going to want to connect with you too.
And Dr. Holland, for people who are outside the healthcare industry but trying to move into it, are we talking about a lot of new young graduates? Or are we talking about people mid-career? What sort of folks do you
Talking
get?
about a really rich mixture intergenerationally. The average age of a student at Our Lady of the Lake College is about 27 years old. And I would say that anywhere from veterans to people who have already earned bachelor's degrees or master's or making changes are going to be adult students or non-traditional students. That's a really small number that know precisely that they want to go into a particular healthcare field directly out of high school, though we do have a fair number of them. So there's a friendly environment in that sort of a school. Also, the opportunities for the education to be experiential, much like Kurt was saying, is that you want to kind of get an idea of where you'd want to land when you're finished. Well, at Our Lady of the Lake, and preparing to fill some of those needs in the healthcare industry, all of our clinical programs require clinical preparation, and those that are not, most of them have an internship requirement in our healthcare administration and those sorts of things.
Well, Mr. Boudreau, in your field, I know a lot of people think if you go into the technology field or software field, that's only for really young people who want to stay up all night drinking coffee and eating pizza. I mean, should people sort of mid-career feel intimidated by going to work for tech companies?
I don't think so. We actually employ quite a number of middle-aged or older type individuals like myself. But if the passion is there, and some of them even come into entry-level positions in our organization, we offer like a development program in some of the positions to bring them on board and kind of train them into more advanced areas of the organization. So I wouldn't shy away from it. Technology is something you have to get used to no matter which job you choose, no matter what organization. So if you're comfortable working working with customers and technology doesn't scare you off, then I certainly would encourage it.
Let's talk about how you recruit. How do you find these people and what do you do? And Kurt, I'm going to let you go last on this after you hear what they have to say. But let's start with you, Mr. Bowser, in the chemical industry.
Well, we recruit in a number of different ways. Engineers, for example, would go to different schools to talk to the colleges about their engineering program. We work very closely with LSU and other colleges around to look at students. We bring them in as interns, have them intern early in their career where they get a sense of, they get familiar with what we do and we get familiar with them. And that's the way we do that. With respect to process technology operators, people who run the plants for not necessarily engineers, we have a 2-year program that we started several years ago in Louisiana where you can go in and actually learn and go through the process, get a 2-year degree and come out and learn to operate a plant. One of the things, since I started, I've been working in this industry now for over 20 years. When I first started, it was different. It was hands-on. You had to go turn a valve with a wrench. Today, it's like running a video game. And so you bring people in and you train them that way. One of the problems we had with the process technology program is that they were interning and people were hiring them before they could finish. So we have to say, slow down. Let's let them finish the 2-year program.
So a lot of your recruiting, you just go right out to the people in the schools.
Try to go to the high schools, get people going in those different kinds of programs for process technology and introduce them
to
what...
schools let you in?
Yeah, some of them do. And what you do is you want to introduce them to a different career path. Not everybody's going to go to a 4-year school, but you expose them to what the community college has to offer and what it can lead to, the kind of job that it can lead to and the kind of career you could have.
Dr. Holland, when in your former state, was Indiana, right?
Yes.
How did you recruit back in Indiana, and are you going to try to recruit the same way here?
Oh, well, we're recruiting students, not employees necessarily. Mm-hmm. They're able to, it's kind of a buyer's market for faculty these days. Mm-hmm. But depending on where, in STEM, of course, it's very competitive. But for students, it's a matter of matching, not so much recruiting, but matching students' needs with your educational ministry. So we are going to be reaching out to those students that believe that they have an interest or a calling somehow in the health field, but to look at that broadly because of the broadening of the needs in healthcare delivery. But in terms of the recruitment of students from Our Lady of the Lake for employment,
right.
They're recruited, much as Greg was saying, almost before they can complete their programs because they've been exposed at clinical sites and they're part of a health system, the Regional Medical Center as well as the FMOLS health system. So there's already a network, but then also there's 95 or more community partners that all of our students are plugged into, so they're recruited through those partners as well. So anywhere from 95 to 100% of our students find employment within the first 6 months from graduation.
How about that? And recruiting for you at Spark County?
It's a challenge. It's definitely a multifaceted approach. We do some of the traditional things. We partner with local colleges, universities to really draw some of those people in. But we also take advantage a lot of social media and, really from the marketing side, how we position ourselves competitively in the market so that potential employees see us differently. And if you go to our website, you'll notice how we position ourselves, and it's very much focused on our people, not as much on the technology itself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a way that we differentiate. But the other side of that equation from recruiting is retention. And that's actually harder, or something we focus on even more than the recruiting side. How do we keep the people that we have?
Donuts every morning.
Right. That's part of it. But several programs we've implemented around just mentorship, development of our employees, making sure they know they're in a culture that cares about them and that they can feel that they have opportunity to grow and learn.
You don't have you have a ping pong table?
We absolutely do. We absolutely do have a ping pong table.
Do you have stock options?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Kurt, you've watched a lot of companies in the recruitment business, and you even help in that process. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think the view that I would take is there's really a short-term approach to fill a need you have now. But I think successful companies take a long view also and try to build a pipeline. So the short-term approach, I'd say step one is contact the Workforce Commission. I've got to give us a plug.
But no, that's okay.
But it's
you have a website with an actual forum to go and look for jobs.
Absolutely.
Right? And post jobs. Tell us very briefly about that.
Louisiana Star Jobs. Go to laworks.net and click on the blue star, and that'll tell you all the different occupations we have in the state, and it ranks them by how valuable they are to a job seeker. So if they pay well and there are lots of openings, it can get 5 stars. That's the most. If there are no openings or the pay is lousy or both, it may only get 1 star. And you'd be surprised at where some occupations fall. But we help well over 100,000 people a year get a job. And as I say, a lot of those folks are working already, but not all of them are. And
can you give any examples about how it's working, that you know it's working? With the top with the star system and all.
Well, anecdotally, we launched it, I want to say, in early 2013, and before the end of that spring semester, most of the community and technical colleges had put a link to it on their websites, and it's already shaping how higher education dollars are being allocated. It's being used as a tool to align spending with where the jobs are, so that in a period of such scarce public funding, that we're investing our dollars that in a place that will have the most bang for the state. So it's not to say that other programs aren't offered or shouldn't be offered, but if we have to make a choice, we're going to spend our money to prepare somebody for a 5-star job before we prepare them, or spend that money to prepare them for a 1-star job.
Tell me what a 1-star job is.
Somebody who takes tickets at the movie theater. There are a lot of, honestly, there are a lot of jobs. Yeah, lawyers are kind of sliding down the scale. I hate to tell you that, Austin. But a lot of jobs where there's a lot of churn. People don't stay in those jobs long, so it looks like there's thousands of openings, but the pay is terrible. A lot of jobs that teenagers take when you're in high school. I had some of those jobs, and they're very valuable in the economy, but we're not going to spend money to train people for those, and you can't feed your family off of those jobs. And sometimes they're second jobs for people. So they have a lot of value. I don't want to minimize the value of those jobs, but it's how you build a career. You're not going to build a career, selling popcorn or tearing tickets.
All right, we're having fun with this. So I got what's a 4-star job? 4 is the top.
5 is the top.
5. Well, what is a 5-star
I'll tell you this, there's such a breadth of jobs.
Spark count. He says it's spark count.
He probably has a lot of occupations that are 4 and 5-star jobs.
I bet there are a lot of chemical 5-star, a lot of healthcare 5-star.
All of these guys have a lot of 5-star jobs.
No, tell us about a 5-star.
Really, engineering, everything, a lot of STEM jobs. And STEM is anything that requires science and technology.
STEM means?
Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Okay.
Welders are STEM jobs. Pipe fitters are STEM jobs.
But they go way
all the way
in
up
skills
to
from that.
PhDs, engineers, physicians, and a lot of your physician extenders and the other healthcare folks. At every strata, there are a lot of those jobs. Now, you look at jobs like being a legislator. They always like to joke about this. It's a lot of prestige, but there aren't that many openings every year, and the pay's terrible. So they don't get very many stars.
Right. It's a 1-star.
They're 1-star, yeah.
Let's go to James, the audience, because James, you had a question about automation.
Yeah, okay, so this kind of builds off of what you were saying there with your one-star jobs. As someone who's getting a PhD in one of these non-STEM fields, and I look up here and the growing fields are, well, they're all STEM fields in Louisiana.
And what is that PhD in?
It's in political science, although what I actually study is the impact of technology on society. So this question kind of spins off of my own research. It's kind of a twofold question. On one hand, you have this massive growth in the STEM fields. You showed the survey, the statistical data, that there are 3 openings for every STEM field job for every job seeker. But the reverse of that is true for non-STEM fields. So what is the state of Louisiana going to be able to do for these non-STEM field people whose their jobs, like the ticket taker at the movie theater, the guy who cooks the popcorn, the guy who takes your order at McDonald's, when we move to a society that's much more automated, these jobs that a machine can do. So how do we respond to that? And as the personal skin in the game, as someone who's not in these STEM fields, if I could go back, I would go and become a welder or an IT guy with a 2-year degree from a community college instead of spending a decade becoming a political science professor that's never going to find a job.
So, Mr. Bowser, how many PhDs in English and political science have you hired?
I'm sure we've hired some of them. These are some people decide to go back and right. seek a second career. Some of them do that, and those are the people. When they do that, you really become very attractive to you, because if you can leave your field and go back and have the dedication and the discipline to retrain yourself or to learn something else, that's huge. In terms of what the state's going to do as a whole, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how you handle that. I really am not.
But for you individually, I would, as an educator, I would tell you that you have to really look at all of those transferable skills that you've developed as a PhD in political science and indicate how are those skills really marketable in this economy. Though I may not have these technical training, I have very valuable transferable skills that I've learned through my higher education, those soft skills. How can I use those in a way that's of value? And I always like to remind students that education is not equal to training. They're related, but we study to make not just a living, we study to make a life. So keep that, my advice, keep that in balance and understand that, well, you might be a starving PhD for a while, but you have to decide what is important and how you are going to use those skills.
Great point, Dr. Holland. And Mr. Boudreau with Sparkhound, James is talking about technology and the impact on society. What do you have to say to his question?
I think I agree with my colleagues here. Going back and looking at it as a second career is certainly something, if you feel that's something you want to go toward because it's too difficult to find a job in Louisiana with your background. Some of the skills you learn through the education process, I'm sure would lend itself very well to to any of the careers that we offer, given that you would go and invest the time to get some of the IT skills. We've got a number of employees who have done just that, who have kind of made the curve. They got their education in another field, history, English, and go on after a technical skill and training in order to really change their path.
Now, I'd like to switch this around just a little bit now and go to Lisa and Carrie, because Lisa and Carrie work at Baton Rouge Community College. They're right there at the juncture between the students and counseling them to go to careers. Now, I want you to tell these folks what they need to hear from you there in the trenches in the Baton Rouge Community College, and I'm sure probably representing a lot of community college people like yourself around the state. And Lisa, here's your chance.
Okay. Wow. Really?
Yeah. Let them have it.
I really personally and professionally believe that we need to reach the students at a younger age with this message, because there's so much that could be done before they even get in the college doors. And that message needs to come not just from the one counselor that they see. It needs to come from the companies, being visible in the schools and getting that message across during the career days, you know, sending your representatives into that and helping support that philosophy that there are many ways to make a career, many ways to make a living, and they don't always involve a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
They can be in the skilled trades, they can be in a community college degree.
And Lisa, how young are you talking about when we say we need to get to younger people?
Junior high to high school. You really, we miss that opportunity because a lot of the parents aren't hearing that message, and so they're pressuring their children. You have to go to, you know, get a bachelor's degree, and they don't have that message.
And Carrie, you work with interns, right?
I do. I was about to say, I'm fortunate enough to work with process technology as well as construction management students. And many of them do get into this career because a family member or someone they know has made a very good living working in a plant or, you know, working in the construction industry. And so many of them are part-time working in retail, or they're working in fast food. And once they get their internship, they're going from making minimum wage to $20, $25, $30 an hour, and it is life-changing. And if parents knew that and they knew that was an option, it's everyone's job, especially industry, to create an awareness of these options for students. And Lisa's right, it's not just for 4-year, 2-year. I mean, I just gave you a great example of process technology. They're making these, you know, they're making amazing living.
I think our panel wants to respond to that.
Well, I mean, you know, I think Kara's correct. When you take people and you explain to them that by going into getting a 2-year degree, you can come out having done an internship and really experience and make anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 a year or more with benefits and with some great retirement plans. You can do that. The biggest problem that we've had is every parent thinks that their kid needs to go to a 4-year school, and you've got to get really into the kids. And what we found is that if you can get them before they get through the 9th grade, you've got a chance. I think that's where the whole bottleneck, when they make that decision, they've got a chance. And the other thing is that if you can show them what it's like to be a process technician, what they do, it's not like it used to be. I mean, it is a very highly skilled job. And it creates all kinds of opportunities, because if you can train you for a chemical plant process technician, you can work in a nuclear plant, you can work in almost any kind of facility.
A lot of transferable skills. Mr. Ising.
You know, in recruiting people, I said this too, there's two facets. There's the immediate need, but then there's building the pipeline, and that's exactly what you're talking about. And there are some very successful programs in the state. Lake Charles has a great program. Lafayette has one that's developing very well. And there are some developing in our area and elsewhere where they get all middle school students or all high school students into a gigantic career fair. And they actually have people performing those functions so the kids can see them and talk to them and interview them and understand what it is, and maybe then get a field trip or whatever. But it's really important for companies to do that. As a state official, I can't do that in nearly as convincing a manner as, you know, as somebody who's doing that work.
Yeah, Austin, you're trying to jump in.
Yeah, we just had some people from our education sector just speak to us. How do you think that our education system is preparing our youth and people that are middle-aged for the workforce?
And you're really talking about the public.
I'm talking about the public.
Because we have a gentleman here, Matt, who's with a private construction training. We have the healthcare training with Dr. Holland. But you're talking about the public universities and community colleges and so on.
We have the surplus of jobs that we see that we're coming in, you know, thanks to the general administration for, you know, bringing a lot of these public or private jobs into the state, which are creating, you know, mass amount of jobs in our state. But how do you think our education system is preparing them for those private jobs that are coming in? And, you know, with the general administration kind of cutting higher education, how do you think that's affecting it as well?
So how are we going to rank our public institutions with the burden that the governor has put on us with all these jobs? Who wants to take that first?
I'll take a stab.
Okay, all right.
Got to defend my boss. It's a couple of things. I think the issue in my mind is not the quality of our graduates. The issue is that they're coming out in fields for which they have to leave the state to find work, and in too great a number. Engineers produced in Louisiana, I hear, and maybe Greg could tell us, they do very well. They're sought after. Computer scientists from our schools in Louisiana, they're sought after. Even our liberal arts graduates are well respected. So it's not an issue of quality. It's that I think over decades, we've allowed our system to get out of whack, and everybody's got to get a 4-year degree. When we have all these jobs that require a 2-year degree or certificate or so forth,
Great
and
point.
they're valuable jobs.
We're running out of time, and I want you quick 15 seconds. The reemployment initiative.
The reemployment initiative and the WISE plan. Reemployment, we took unemployed people and we said, you've got to come to our offices, you've got to get help from a professional counselor like you all, but one of our folks, because we think you'll have a better result. In a 6-month period in Acadiana, we cut the number of weeks that claimants get benefits by 35%, and we cut about 28 or 30% off of the number of people who go through their whole claim before getting a job. And just in that little period, in that little part of the state, $2.6 million in savings.
We can find it on the website.
LAworks.net.
LAworks.net, right?
Okay.
Great. All right, any last thoughts? Mr. Bowser?
Probably the other thing I would say, the other biggest factor is, when we're looking for people to work, you almost have to get 10 applicants just to get the one person, and a lot of it has to do with the drug issue, drug testing. Yeah. That's a big issue in employment, and it's something that we're going to have to address.
Huge issue. Stay off the drugs. It's a real problem in the workforce. I hear so many employers say this. We can lick that problem. We can probably lick all these problems. So that's a great. I'm glad you brought that into the. Well, we've run out of time for our question and answer segment. But we'd like to thank our panelists, Mr. Isink, Dr. Holland, Mr. Bowser, and Mr. Boudreau for their insight on this month's topic. And when we come back, we'll have a few closing comments.
Well, lively conversation. Looks like there are a lot of jobs out there.
With opportunity comes the challenges, but I feel a little bit encouraged after all this discussion.
Well, that's good. I was trying to think what I want my grandchildren to go into, and I'm not sure. There'll probably be a job we haven't even thought of.
That's right. Jobs we don't even know exist are out there.
Exactly.
So that's right.
Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Louisiana Public Square. We encourage you to visit our website at lpb.org/public square. While you're there, take this month's survey, view extended interview clips, and comment on tonight's show. We would love to hear from you, like we did from viewers last month following State Contracts 101. JG writes to us, "This is a disgrace to humanity. Stop putting money in useless programs for foolishness." And Alex writes, "State contracts are needed. There are, however, obvious pitfalls involving contractors, and they're increasingly becoming more powerful." Well, thanks to everyone for their comments.
Well, despite the governor's backing, measures to legalize marijuana for medical use failed to pass this legislative session. Attempts to reduce the penalties for the possession of the drug were also unsuccessful. We'll hear from supporters and opponents next month on Louisiana Public Square's encore presentation of Pot or Not, the decriminalization debate. Well, thanks for watching, and good night.
Good night, everyone, and thank you. Thanks.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.
Support for this program is provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and from viewers like you.